All right, so let's go ahead and get started and put together this main screen here. There's a lot of things, but we're going to start slow as we always do. Let's start with the top. I think that's always helpful. All right, so we are going to get rid of our weather app bar. Let's also get rid of that. Let's focus on main screen. So back to our main content here. Instead of just having that, I'm going to get rid of that. That was just for us to do some testing to see if indeed we're getting data, which we are. So let's move on. All right, so I'm going to create a column here first, because everything, as you see here, it's going to be top to bottom, right? All of the data, all of the widgets, for the most part anyway. And before we move forward here, for our column, we're going to put a modifier, add a modifier, and I'm going to say padding for this modifier. I'll get 4 dp, and I'm going to say fill max width, right? Fill the entire width. And then I'm going to make sure that a vertical arrangement is going to be center as such, and horizontal alignment, I want to be center horizontally. That will take care of everything we need to make sure that everything is nicely laid out. All right, so inside now, I'm going to put a text. So this text here will have this top part here, which says Monday, November, so the date essentially. All right, so for now, I'm going to say text, and give some sort of, say, November 29th, something like this. Okay, and let's go and give it a style. Typography, and I'm going to make it a caption, so not too large. Let's give a color, say colors, and on secondary as such, right? And let's give it a font weight, and I want semi bold, so you can just type semi bold like this. And let's give it a modifier, say modifier such, and I want a padding of about 6 dp all around. Right. Very good. Now at the bottom there, I'm going to add this, create this structure, right? So if you see, the structure is a circle, and inside we have all of these other structures, other widgets. So we can use different kinds of composable, but the one that I always like to use is surface, because it's a more malleable, easy to customize canvas, if you will. Okay, so I'm going to say surface. And I'm going to pass a modifier, give it a padding of about 4 dp. And I'm going to give it a size, an overall size of about 200 dp. That's a size 200 at dp as such. And for that, let's see. Oops, I'm making a mess here. Let's go like that. And I'm going to say, actually, I'm just going to put a comma and give it a shape, because I want this to be circular, as you see it like that. So we can pass a shape. It's going to be a circle. Shape like that. Very good. And it looks like we need to import size somehow. And inside, we'll see that we will need some sort of a column, because we have all of these other widgets lined up vertically. Okay, so I'm going to put a column, and I want this to vertically be aligned, arranged, I should say, center, and horizontally. I want to align this center horizontally, as you see. And then I'm going to add an image here, which we're going to do later. But before, let's go ahead and add a text. All right, so I'm going to add a couple texts, actually. So again, we're trying to emulate this text and that second one. So the first one, I'm just going to put something like 54 like this. And let's give it a style. Typography, it's going to be a little bit larger, so H4. And give a font weight of extra bold, like that. Okay. And this one, it's going to be a description. I'm going to just say snow for now. We're going to add the actual text later. Say font style. I'm going to say font italic. That's what I want. All right, let's go ahead and give it a run. Okay. Let's go ahead and give it a quick run. Okay, there we go. We have at the top, there's November 29th and 56 snow and so forth. So it looks kind of like this. We're missing a few things, of course, but we're getting there. Now, we need to, obviously there is that circle there, but we don't have that background. So we need to add the background color, that is, so we can see it. All right, so after our shape, I'm going to say color. And in this case, I'm going to construct an actual color with hex like this. And I'm going to say 0x FF C400. Now I know these colors, of course, because I've created them before. But one thing I do is whenever you want to add a color and you don't know the color yet, or you're trying to test things out, you can just put any gibberish, or not gibberish, but an actual hex color. And then you can see in the guide here, you can click, and this tool opens up here, or you can actually start choosing around the color that you want. So it's really handy, especially when you're trying to figure out what colors you want. All right, so this is the one I'm going to use, and let's go ahead and run and see if indeed we're going to see what we're looking for. Okay, there we go. We have our circle. Looks really nice, just like that. All right, very good. So the next thing we want to do, of course, is to get the image. So something like this. Now, it's not going to be a general image. It's going to be an image that we're going to be getting, indeed, from our API. Now, where is that image? Because you look at here, you don't see an image. However, you see certain codes. If you go to the weather array here, there's an object. This object has the main and description, right? Description of the weather of that day. And there is this icon, and it's a code. Now we can use that code to create or to retrieve an image. And that is actually somewhere else. So you can use this code and paste into a URL, right? And then we're going to get an image. Now, where is that? Well, let's go. If you go to this link, openweathermap.org, image WN, and let's say 10D, for instance, .png, hit enter, and you can see we get an icon image. It's very small, it's hard to see, but it's there. So this is what we're going to be using, right? So the idea is we are going to create another composable with this, of course, with this URL, and we're going to just pass these codes. We're going to append these codes, 10D, and so we're going to pass that along, right? All these codes, of course, we're going to get from our API. We're going to pass that along and get that image. So for our image here, I'm just going to invoke a different composable we haven't created, called this weather state image, like this, and we are going to pass an image URL, which we're going to get from image URL. Let's go ahead and create this image URL at the top here. This, and we understand we need to append a few things here. The first thing I'm going to append is going to be the actual image, but then I'm going to say .png. So here I'm going to append that code. Where do we get that code? for our image. We can see the code for our image is inside of our weather and inside of this object, as I said before. And we're going to go to icon. So we need to get that code so that, again, we can append that inside there and then .png to get that correct image. All right. So, well, how do we get that? Well, we have our data here. It's a weather object, which is convenient. So I'm going to say data. And let's go ahead to our list. And what I'm going to do, because it's a list, which means contains indices, right? It's a list containing objects of weather, in this case, forecast weather. I'm going to just go ahead and focus on getting the first item, the first list or index, that is. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and get this first one there, because this is going to be today, right? And I'm going to peruse through to weather and get the icon. All right. Okay, so I get to the first object for today, data or weather, and then I'm going to go and get weather, and it's indeed a list or array. I'm going to also get the first. It's also another list or array, so I'm going to get the first index item there, which is going to be this object here. There's only one, right? And then I'm going to get the icon. All right, so that's 0 there, and then I'm going to go ahead and say icon like that. And I'm going to append the PNG. Looks like it doesn't like that. That's okay. Remove unnecessary. Very good. So there we go. So we have the image URL, which will be called inside of our image weather state image, which we haven't created. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and create that. So this composable, of course, takes in that string URL to show the image. The reason why we are breaking things down is because we may want to use this weather state image again and somewhere else. So putting it this way, it's way better than hard coding everything. So in this case, I'm going to just use image like this. Now we have to be careful. We're going to use the image for coil because remember, it's an image coming from a URL, which means coming from an internet. So it's much easier using our coil library dependency, which deals with all of other things that we don't want to deal with when it comes to getting images from the internet. Image painter like that. And here I'm going to say remember image painter. This is important. And that's where we pass the request, which is going to be our image URL, the URL in this case, for description, icon, image. And it looks like it doesn't like this. Let's just not add the request, just pass the image URL like that. Okay, that's much better because that was an argument that it wasn't being recognized. So just remove that and just pass the image URL. Okay, and then I'm going to pass a modifier here real quick just to modify the sizes. So modifier size, I'm going to make this about 80 dp. Okay, so this weather state image now has been called there. We pass the image URL and of course coil. And I know this is coil because if you hover over, you can see, let me do it again. You can see it says from IO coil KT. This is very important because it deals with everything in the background to get that image to show. All right, let's see if this works. Let's go ahead and run. Well, it doesn't look like the image is showing. Maybe there's a space in here, perhaps. Let's see. There we go. So that was a little space there. Don't add spaces because, as you know, that creates issues. And there we go. There is that image. All right, this icon. Very well. So again, like I said, we can always use the weather state anywhere we want, and then we pass the URL, and life is good. And as you see, we have that image, and that is, of course, dynamic depending on the state, or in this case, depending on the city, right? It should change. If I come up here and say Moscow, for instance, let's go ahead and run. Hopefully we should see something different, unless in Moscow the conditions are the same as Portland. That could happen, but I doubt it. And voila, you can see in Moscow is indeed snowing. All right, very good.